So I'm imagining that gecko in that middle of the poem who's just waiting for that water, waiting for it, but not, as Leslie said earlier, not passively. That gecko is demanding relief, is looking up at Alice Walker and saying, I want to be joyful. Give me more water. That gecko, they're not running away and hiding. That gecko, they create their joy by looking up and saying to Alice, yes, I'm still waiting. How many of us feel like that gecko? How many of us feel like we are waiting, we are yearning, we are longing for some sort of change to happen in our lives, something to bring us relief? How many of us, I know I've done it sometimes, are looking up at the sky and saying, yes, we're still waiting? You know, I wonder what would happen if we do that together. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yes, we're still waiting. Well, look at that. You all have some power. I'm going to make you do that a couple more times, all right? Yes, we are still waiting. So what kind of joy can we create if we're more than just that single gecko? I think we're a little bit bigger, but you know, size isn't everything. We're more than just a single person waiting. What happens when we choose to wait together? That moment of pleasure, that moment of exquisite ecstasy, of divine delight. We create that gecko joy, that goddess joy when we wait together. Alice Walker and the gecko waiting together in that dry, hot garden, they create this momentary paradise. They rejoice in this temporary relief from the troubles of the world. It's as though they know that their joy is magnified when they choose to wait and create it together. And it's like they know that in order to survive that heat, they have to celebrate. They have to create joy. I'm going to keep blocking that gecko, apparently. They have to do this waiting together. Like us, they are shouting out together, yes, we're still waiting. Nice over there in the choir loft. We should aspire to be like that. Yes, we're still waiting. Well, what happens if that waiting asks so much more of us than just hanging out with a gecko in the garden? What if it asks something difficult of us, something risky, something that's even dangerous? Is there still joy in that kind of waiting? Is it still possible for us to create a momentary paradise in that difficult and even dangerous time? Yes. You all passed your quiz perfectly today when we said that this was the third week of Advent. And this third week celebrates joy. This third week is a reminder that we still can create joy as we wait. And it reminds us that joy is not simply about being happy. Joy is about recognizing the gifts we already have, of embracing that gratitude, and of embracing our own power. We talk about Jesus in this time a lot, but we often can overlook somebody who's really important in this time, Mary. In this time of Advent, in this time of waiting, Mary is a young Jewish woman. She's already got 2 oppression check marks by her in this time when she's living in the Roman Empire. She's a Jewish woman. It's already dangerous for her. And then an angel has the audacity to tell her that God's going to put a baby in your womb. And Mary says, you know what? All right then, let's do this. Mary decides to let her womb be a nurturing space for that promise of love, that promise of liberation, of justice. She rejoices in that fact. She rejoices so much that when she goes to her cousin Elizabeth, and Elizabeth says, "What is this? What is happening to us?" Mary says, "Yes, I will rejoice. I will celebrate the fact that we have the power to create something. I will celebrate the fact that I am giving of my life, of my body, of my spirit to that promise of joy, that promise of possibility. I will create it." She says to Elizabeth, "Yes, we are suffering, but we don't have to stay that way. There will be liberation. Yes, love will reign, hate will fall. Yes, Elizabeth, I will rejoice. We will rejoice because we are." It's one of my personal favorites up there. Yes, we are still waiting. And we here today are still waiting. Where is that joy for us in our waiting today? In our troubled and broken world, where is the joy that we are waiting for? That change, that relief? We sang it. Our joy today is that we are the ones we've been waiting for. We have within us that power, that love, that capacity to connect to one another, that capacity to learn, to transform, to challenge within us. In the midst of injustice, in the midst of proposed and enacted laws that rob the poor to make the rich richer, in the midst of hatred that fuels violence, in the midst of privilege that denies temporary shelter for those without homes, we are the ones we've been waiting for. In this time of longing, we can find and create joy. We can recognize and embrace our own power. We can celebrate that we are the ones charged with waiting, with creating, with changing. We can own that power that exists among us, within us, between us. That promise of love and liberation, that perseverant resistance, that possibility of what this world, what paradise here on earth could be. We can create joy because, yes, we are still resisting, we are still demonstrating, we are still challenging, we are still learning, we are still loving, we are still grieving, we are still praying, we are still rebuilding, we are still loving the hecko-gecko out of this world. And yes, say it loudly and proudly, we are still waiting! We are the ones who will make it so.